In the chaotic tapestry of war, heroes often emerge from the most unexpected places. This is the story of when a cook was given a rifle, and how a single, improbable capture changed an entire division's fate. It begins not on a famed battlefield, but in the shattered frozen forests of the Ardennes. December 1944, the 99th Infantry Division. The Checkerboard Division is green, untested, and holding a critical sector of the American line. They are about to be hit by the full force of the German 6th Panzer Army in the opening salvos of the Battle of the Bulge. And in their ranks, a man whose primary weapon was a ladle would be handed a M1 Garand. The man was Private First Class Vernon L. McGarity, a cook serving with Company L, 3rd Battalion, 393rd Infantry Regiment, 99th Infantry Division. At 24, McGarity was assigned to the battalion's kitchen detail, tasked with feeding the men in the bitter cold near the Belgian-German border. The Checkerboard Division was spread thin, holding a front of nearly 22 miles, double the recommended length for a division in defense. Their position was quiet, deemed a ghost front, but intelligence warnings of a German buildup were mounting. The strategic situation was dire. If the German spearhead, led by battle-hardened SS Panzer units, could punch through the 99th's lines at the Eisenborn Ridge and the Losheim Gap, the road to the vital port of Antwerp would lie open. The entire Allied front could be split in two. The men of the 99th, including cooks like McGarity, were the brittle crust holding back a tidal wave of German armor and infantry. Before dawn on December 16, 1944, the Ghost Front erupted into hell. A thunderous artillery barrage, over 2,600 guns strong, pounded the American positions for 90 minutes. The ground shook, trees were shredded into splinters, and the deafening roar was constant. As the shelling lifted, the fog and darkness came alive, with the guttural sound of German engines and the screams of Vorwärts. The main thrust of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend and the 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division slammed into the 99th's outposts. McGarity's kitchen was overrun in the initial chaos, grabbed a rifle, ammunition, and grenades, and fought his way back to his company's main position on a wooded ridge near the village of Krinkelt. For the next 48 hours, Company L was isolated, surrounded on 3 sides, and subjected to relentless assaults. The bitter cold froze weapons and flesh alike. By December 18th, the company was reduced to a handful of effective riflemen. McGarity, now a rifleman by necessity, moved from foxhole to foxhole, directing fire, hurling grenades at approaching German infantry, and treating the wounded under a hail of mortar and machine gun fire. He was wounded by shrapnel but refused evacuation. His section of the line became a critical anchor. As dusk fell on the 18th, a new threat emerged. German infiltration teams, expert in night combat, began probing the shattered American perimeter. The situation was deteriorating by the minute. Ammunition was running critically low, and the constant pressure was grinding the defenders down. Then, through the twilight and the smoke, McGarity spotted movement just 50 yards from his foxhole. Not just infantry, a group of German soldiers moving with purpose were setting up a heavy machine gun, an MG-42, the terrifying Hitler's buzzsaw, in a perfect enfilade position. From that spot, they could rake the entire Company L line from the flank, cutting down the exhausted defenders in their holes. The company had no mortar or artillery support left to call in. They were too pinned down to mount a countercharge. In moments, that machine gun would open up, and it would be the final murderous blow that broke their resistance. The fate of the battalion's flank, and perhaps the entire regimental defense of this key ridge, hung in the balance. McGarity made a decision. He would not wait for the storm to break. Signaling to 2 other nearby soldiers to provide covering fire, he gathered every grenade he had left. Alone, he low-crawled out of his foxhole into the frozen mud and debris. Using shell craters and fallen trees for cover, he inched forward, the sound of German voices growing clearer. Every movement risked discovery and instant death. He closed the distance, 40 yards. 30, 20! He could see the gun team clearly now, 3 men preparing the deadly weapon. With a surge of adrenaline, McGarity rose to one knee, pulled the pin on a fragmentation grenade, and hurled it in a high arc. The explosion was concussive in the close woods. Shouts of surprise and pain erupted from the German position. Seizing the moment of chaos, he rushed forward, his M1 Garand at his shoulder. What he saw was not just a disabled machine gun nest. Among the dazed and wounded Germans was an officer, barking orders, trying to reorganize the team. It was a Hauptmann, a captain. McGarity, with sheer, terrifying presence, leveled his rifle and captured the German officer and the two surviving crewmen single-handedly. But he didn't stop there. Using the captured captain as both a shield and an interrogation source, he learned the disposition of a nearby German assault group. He forced the officer to call out to them, and in a stunning display of bluff and bravery, McGarity and his two comrades accepted the surrender of an additional 21 German soldiers. This single, daring action eliminated a critical threat, yielded vital intelligence, and netted 24 prisoners, including a key officer. More importantly, it shattered the local German attack. The momentum on that section of the line shifted. McGarity's action gave Company L the breathing room it desperately needed to hold until reinforcements from the veteran 2nd Infantry Division could link up with them. The 99th Infantry Division, against all odds, held the Eisenborn Ridge. Their stubborn, costly defense blunted the northern shoulder of the German offensive, channeling the enemy spearhead into a narrower, more congested corridor where it could eventually be contained and destroyed. The division suffered over 20% casualties in those first brutal days, but their sacrifice was pivotal. For his actions from December 16th to 19th, actions that began when he was simply a cook handed a rifle, Private First Class Vernon L. McGarity was awarded the Medal of Honor. His citation credits him with fearless courage and superb leadership that not only saved the lives of many of his fellow soldiers but also inspired his unit to halt the enemy's advance. The capture of that German captain and his men was the linchpin, a moment of individual heroism that fortified a company, which helped hold a battalion, which supported a regiment, which allowed a division to stand firm.